Are you looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/bluewire and use code BLUEWIRE. That's code BLUEWIRE at prizepicks.com/bluewire for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to our second straight episode of Group Therapy. This is Kirk Henderson. I'm editor-in-chief of MavsMoneyball.com. I apologize for the late start, even though it was a late game, later than I intended it to be. Had to do some writing after the game, which I had forgotten about. For those of you who are listening on the recording the next day, it's about 11:30 on Sunday night, and we all get to start the week with a loss to the Portland Trail Blazers. They defeated the Dallas Mavericks by the exact same number of points as they did on Saturday night, but this time they scored even more. It was 140-123. Luka Doncic missed this game due to pretty much injury management. Tim Hardaway missed the game due to an ankle sprain. The guys that we were told were maybe going to debut on the road trip, Josh Green and Dorian Finney-Smith, still haven't suited up. And so Christian Wood played. Christian Wood did play, which kind of calls into question the entire Dallas Mavericks strategy for these two games, that if the decision was for Luka to sit one and for Wood to try to play the second one, why wouldn't they have caved last night? So instead they basically split a pair of sevens and, busted. Pretty embarrassing, but that's the Mavericks kind of MO at times. The basketball is not a linear progression with enough guys injured. They're always going to have an excuse as to what could be done better. And in that regard, it was actually kind of an impressive fight for how many guys that were out. I told Josh in the recap show, one thing that I'm trying to take away that was positive from this game was Spencer Dinwiddie over the last 3 games, remembering that he can attack the rim. Drew lots of fouls tonight, so that was really nice, and hopefully that's something we get moving forward. So why don't we come up here, speak your piece, and let's go to bed. Up first, I got my man Chris Haley. What's going on, Chris?
Theo Pinson is pissing me off. That's what's happening here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what the hell happened? It was 106-103.
The Theo Pinson, really stupid
technical foul.
I tweeted. Do you remember? There's this incredible bowler. I can't remember the guy's name, but he had some ridiculous celebration years and years ago where he says, "Who do you think you are? I am," and that's how Theo Pinson lived. He's a guy who is just look, I got nothing against the guy, but that he's on the team when he was just kind of a paid cheerleader. He was reckless and he's not good. I don't like watching him.
He's kind of like a poor man's Patrick Beverly type cheerleader but he's going to be the future leader of the Mavs Maniacs in about 10 years. So just get rid of that.
Yeah. And that was, things went obviously not his fault, but it's just,
yeah, the
things
loss
went
wasn't
south right after that.
Yeah, it was after that technical foul, and just hats off to the Trailblazers. They were just hitting 3 after 3. They shot 43 free throws. Made 37 of them. So
yeah, and that sort of speaks to something Kid has mentioned on post games repeatedly. They just don't have the personnel to defend And last night, Saturday night, they actually didn't foul that much, but tonight it was just a parade. You can't do, and until they figure something out, I'm really worried that the sort of like the thing on teams' scouting report is just attack the rim. Do not settle for anything. Attack the rim relentlessly.
Yeah, and this last two games, this is the third most points the Mavs have ever given up in back-to-backs in franchise history.
Well,
yeah, that's all that on the graphic on Mavs Live, and I'm not surprised. I mean, we gave up 40 tonight, 136 last night. Yep. I mean, it's just
7 out of 8 quarters, the Portland Trailblazers scored 30-plus points.
Yeah, and just listening to After Dark yesterday, what Josh was saying, I mean, all those games early in the year that we had a fully healthy team for a long time, for about at least first 25 games. I mean, we were playing around, losing those 1-2 point games. It sucks because now we don't. I mean, we're still in the 5th spot, yeah, but there's a ton of teams right behind us. I mean, it don't take but maybe a 5-6 game losing streak, and I mean, you're in the 11th, 12th spot. I mean, I'm glad we got a 4-game homestand come up, so that looks good. I mean, we play good at home, so
they do. That's true, and they're against a bunch of other teams that are sort of at crossroads of sorts. When the Hawks and the Heat are, let me see here. The Hawks and the Heat are sort of, I don't want to speak out of the one side of my mouth or not, but yeah, okay. So the Heat are 24-20 right now. The Hawks are 21-22. Like, these are another set of teams that are in very similar situation to Dallas, to where the Mavericks and hopefully by having some home court advantage can eke out a couple of wins, because if they were, not to be like incredibly Debbie Downer, but they've got to find a way to win some of these games. Otherwise, they could just as quickly be in the 10th seed as they are in the 5th seed.
Yeah, but these home court advantage, it's real this season for the Mavs. I mean, or really in the whole Western Conference. I mean, the away team is the one that really loses for the most part. I don't know, but one last thing. My concern is, and I'm looking far ahead here, that next year we might even be worse.
That's correct.
Because if we lose
on paper,
Christian Wood, then we could be like, it's scary to think that how bad we could be much worse than what we are now. God, I just hope it doesn't get to that point.
Well, and I don't think it will. I mean, even darkest timeline Kirk is not there at that point. It's
because they'll have all their draft picks, but I'm kind of confused on what they can do from there. I guess you can.
Well, I still, I think they do something before the trade deadline. I don't know what, and I don't know if it'll be a big deal. But if for example, like the Cleveland Cavaliers, if that's something where they are actually interested in Tim Hardaway Jr., then that's going to open things up a little earlier for the Mavericks. They are trying to remember. They're not in luxury tax. They are over the salary cap. I think I've got that right. No, I'm wrong about something, but it's like they're in just a bit of a goofy position right now, because again, the Wood stuff is so very interesting, where they sort of, I don't know what they do. I just don't know what they do. I think everyone has sort of balanced out where they were during the 7-game win streak as far as your take on Wood. Where my take is that I think he is a net positive. Yeah. But like his agent messaging everybody under the sun saying that he's the best player Luka has ever played with is an incorrect take, is what I will say.
Oh, yeah. What's going to suck is that after the trade deadline, if he's not extended, then we're going to have to worry about this until July.
I'm worried more about the process than I am the player, because if Christian Wood is what makes or breaks this team being bad versus good, then they just have so many more problems. So.
Yeah. But anyway, just have to take it a game at a time. Just homestand to just win some games, and then they got to figure out this road thing. Yep. So I don't know. Get some guys back healthy, and hopefully they'll right the ship.
All right, man. Talk soon. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Tyler, what's up, buddy?
Kirk, what's up, man?
Just enjoying the 5-game road trip, which has made me feel 1,000 years old.
Yeah, I remember when it was. We were like, if they go, 2 and 3 on the road trip, it'd be nice. Yeah, those were the glory days.
Well, I mean, they had an opportunity. It's the margins in these losses versus the margins in these wins is starting to make me a little bit uncomfortable here. The Mavericks are flirting with a negative point differential on the season now. They're at a plus 0.4 point differential, despite being 3 games above 500. So what that'll tell you, your point differential, it's like the Pythagorean win expectation stuff where, they're playing a bit over their heads on the season relative to their point differential. But the West is not, the West is kind of a mess in this regard where, let's see here. Yeah, the Mavericks are they have the lowest positive point differential, but then the Clippers, Golden State Warriors, and Timberwolves are still in the negative. And it's only the Spurs are masterfully tanking. So it's, I don't know. There's still an opportunity for them to they're not in a tailspin or anything. They're just kind of in a malaise at the moment.
Yeah, they are. And, that kind of point differential, it's kind of like the football. I guess you're familiar with DVOA, which basically is how good you are, taking out a bunch of variables and the Vikings had a negative point differential this year and we're the 3 seed. And we saw that today, how that worked out. So
yeah,
it's just interesting to see that that's the case. And to that point, that's why I just put in a little wager on the Mavs to be a play-in team, plus 320.
Sure. That's a good bet.
I mean,
it's such a toss-up. What anybody with this many games to go feels positive about any team outside of perhaps, I would say, the Pelicans. The Grizzlies have the biggest win differential, but I can't shake I can't shake how much I feel like the Grizzlies are not it. Denver's my team out of the West.
I think so too. Denver is so good with Jokic, and you got to think that Murray and eventually maybe Porter will be healthy and be able to contribute at a high level in the playoffs finally.
He's a weirdo though. It's just Jokic. That's all it is for me.
Jokic, pretty much.
Jokic or bust.
Well, and the other thing, and I was just looking at the standings after the game, the Mavs are closer to 12th in the standings than they are to 3rd.
But that's more of an instance of the standings than it is real. You know what I mean? It's
right. It's more of an indictment of everybody around you rather than you.
They're still only 3 games back from the 3rd seed versus what you're talking about, where it's the Lakers are 4 games ahead of the Lakers, who are 13th.
And 2.5 out back of the suddenly hot Thunder.
They're good. I don't feel bad about losing. So good. I don't feel bad about losing to them now. I feel like they're really good.
Until, Presti will pull something out in the second half of the season where Shea's out with, mysterious back spasms to go get Wemby, and then we're really screwed with the Thunder. But that's a whole different story.
Well, man, thanks for coming up. You got anything else?
No, hopefully next time we talk, it's a little bit more positive.
I know. I'd like a win. All right. We'll talk soon.
See you later.
Okay. We got Krishna. Then we might be done for the night because it doesn't seem like anybody's got much to say. What's going on, my guy?
Kirk, how are you?
Tired. This road trip is not for me. It's not for me, but that's okay.
Yeah, West Coast. It's brutal. You talked about it. It makes no sense to me if, maybe they didn't know Christian Wood was going to come back for this game, but it seems like they kind of did. And then it makes no sense why you wouldn't sit Luka for the first game then. That's just puzzling, but it's nothing new, I guess, from this team.
Well, Josh both thinks that the organizational belief is that they're better than they are. I don't know why they have to they've not won a game with Luka. Why the hell would they think they could go beat Dame without Luka?
It's kind of why I think they need to get humbled, and I want the Thunder to be better than the Mavericks. That sounds harsh, but unless they get slapped in the face like that, it's not going to happen. And I don't know if it will.
Well, I think they're too good to be a lottery team, but I think in terms of team building, as we sort of touched on it tonight, them getting a young asset that can play or that they could trade is more important than whatever they were to piddle around and do this year. But I understand why why that's probably not a popular opinion.
No, I've been on that train with you. You know, when we were talking even before the 7-game win streak, my opinion was never full tank, just because I don't.
Right.
You know, like one, it's not really possible because organizations tank, players don't, and Luka's too good for that. But you do need to do a reset on just who your players are. You just need to get younger. I look at something like the Warriors. The Warriors are kind of similar in the sense I feel like the Warriors look at themselves and maybe think they're better than they are, and maybe you take advantage of that. You say, hey, like, you want Reggie, you want Tim, like, give us Jonathan Kuminga.
Yeah.
Like things like that. Or, you go to a team and you get an expiring and you get a young player along with it. But my issue is I just know that this team is not going to do that because they, like you said, they think they're better than they are. And it's just a frustrating historically organizational thing, right? Like there's nothing that's going to change that unless ownership changes. And I think it's depressing to think about, but it's kind of just the reality.
They pulled a rabbit out of their hat at the last trade deadline, and I think I'm trying to remember the feelings of this team when that happened, because the vast majority of people were not happy that we traded Wood. There was 900 people in this room, not Wood, that we traded Porzingis. Most people were like, "What are we doing?" And then that worked out just fine. So it's as critical as I get in the macro. Some of the micro stuff, I still have to sort of throw my hands up and say, I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, like the rotation minutes, they make absolutely zero sense to me. Like this is kind of not really relevant, but you cut Tyler Dorsey and then you put AJ Lawson on a 2-way, but then you don't play AJ Lawson,
who is better than Pinson.
Yeah, but you played Theo Pinson. Like, okay, you don't play AJ Lawson 2 games. Like, okay, fine. Like, maybe you want to get him adjusted to it, but I'm not sitting here saying AJ Lawson will be the difference. Like, you're going to win games, but like, isn't the point of putting AJ Lawson on a 2-way instead of Tyler Dorsey that you felt like he could at least be okay during injury times instead of Theo Pinson? Like, that's what's so puzzling and confusing. And, I think it was yesterday, SJ tweeted, like, some of these injuries kind of have to fall on Kidd. Like, his rotations and some of the minutes he's playing these guys just have not made any sense. Like, I think probably the only injury that's really just kind of a fluke injury is the Josh Green one. But it's still, like, these guys are not...
We don't even know what happened to him. Like, we still don't know. It's like he has an elbow injury. What does that mean?
Well, from what I've heard, is that he was tangled up with Grayson Allen, and Allen kind of pulled his arm, and he said he felt something, but he played the rest of the game, and then after the game they got it scanned. So at this point he's missed 20 games, Kirk. That's
a lot of games.
That's almost half the season.
It's
worrying.
He's grown so much in our minds where everyone's like, "Oh, Josh Green gets back." When Josh,
okay, this is so funny. I was on Twitter, they recommend videos and stuff on your trending, and one of the first videos was a Josh Green compilation of this past first 20 games of the season, and it was I miss Josh Green. I'm like, bro, we're actually so down. This is how bad the team is. It's not anything against Josh Green. I'm a supporter of Josh Green. I think he's a good player, but it clearly shows how talent deprivated this team is, that a guy like Josh Green being gone for 20 games is such a serious issue.
Well, I mean, I talked a little bit about this with Josh last night, and when you think about how many rotation guys, so if Maxey, Green, and Dorian Finney-Smith have each missed a lot of games. It is not a small number of games when you go look. It's been at least 12 for each one of them. Up to 20 for Josh, who I think is at the longest, and Maxey, because I don't want to believe anything about Maxey. It's like, oh, he might be back in March. I'm like, his hamstring operated on. What are we talking about? But in that regard, the fact that they played how they've played, even though they've gotten kind of on a lucky schedule streak, is pretty impressive. I don't see light at the end of the tunnel. I just sort of see this being a slog. Now, I hope I'm wrong.
No, I agree. I don't disagree with you on that point. I mean, I think Josh tweeted about it yesterday, but the 13-13 stretch now looks even worse.
Yep.
Because these injuries are brutal, and you don't have an excuse, because you're a healthy team. You could have played this style of basketball when you were a healthy team then. And now with injuries, it just makes it worse. And it's kind of tough to see where this team goes. And it's also kind of one of the things where I don't want to fully blame the players because, how much, players aren't the ones creating the roster. They don't create the rotations.
Right. That's exactly right.
It's why it makes me mad when Jason Kidd says stupid stuff like we need to find guys minutes. Like what are you talking about?
I think Theo going in first makes me mad. I think the number of minutes and the situations they're trying to put Hardy in are advantageous to Hardy's development.
I think that's true now. It was not true at the beginning of the season.
That's why you got to roll it. Like, you have to see what people do in chunks. He's not going to come out and play 10 minutes a game every game. If you divide the season up into quarters and you see that his minutes are rising every 10 to 15 or 20 games, which has been the case, I think that's something to root for, because if the Mavericks were to get like the 6th seed or 4th seed, they're going to need him to do something. That will mean that he has been of value. Now, you're going to say, oh, he could have been playing the whole time. It's just Hardy's raw. No, Hardy has a lot of stuff he's got to improve on.
I agree with you. I'm very high on Hardy. I think he does have potential, but I'm also not.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say I'm so because this talent, like we talked about, this team is so talent deprived that when we get Hardy, who's even worthy of being a top 15 pick, we're all just drooling because we've never had anyone like this, arguably. And, the history suggests that Hardy is going to struggle this entire season. He had a good game tonight, but he also went 3 of 10 from 3.
Yeah, but that's, I wrote about this because we've seen him shoot. I've seen him shoot to feel good enough about his shot. If one more of those threes drop, does it change how you feel about his game?
No.
Because of what we think of statistics, for me, it does. It goes from being to being wow.
That's true. I mean, you make 2 more threes, you're like, wow,
right?
From 3. It's kind of.
And that's a playing the percentages thing, which isn't fair to him because overall, I think we all agree, you included, he had a good game.
Yeah, and that's not what I.
Did it cut off your internet, or did you mute yourself?
Sorry, it muted me for some reason. I think one of the things you talked about was is he going to continue to be turnover prone? And it's good. He didn't have any turnovers tonight, which that's a positive. And my feeling was this is kind of a year where he just has to actually adjust to playing in the NBA. He has to adjust to playing at a level that's higher than he just played in. And that's, I think, reasonable. And it kind of sucks that he's in a position where the team is so talent deprived, and now it's also injury riddled, where he's going to have to essentially learn in a pressured situation.
Yep.
And maybe he can do it. Maybe he can. I don't know. We'll see. But like you say, it's tough to see where this team goes. It's kind of why I've been I know we talked about trading Tim to the Cavs, and I've kind of been you can trade him, but is Karis LeVert the kind of player you need?
No.
30-year-old?
He's really not. He changes the makeup of the team a great deal.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Honestly, I know Isaac Okoro is not a positive player, but just why don't you just take a flyer on Isaac Okoro at that point? If you're going to trade for Karis LeVert,
yeah,
why not? Because at least Isaac Okoro is a plus defender. He's not a good shooter at all. His offense is basically non-existent, but at that point, I would rather have Isaac Okoro on a rookie deal, smaller scale, and who has something, rather than Karis LeVert, who's injury prone and 30 plus at this point. And that's kind of my feeling is, I'd rather go for guys who are we've talked about how the Mavericks have gone for I would call reclamation projects or net negative assets and guys like Berton. But what makes it more frustrating for me is that it's not. I'm okay with doing that, but it's also I wish they were younger, right? I look at guys like a Rui Hachimura or a Deni Avdija or a Moses Moody or a Jonathan Kuminga. They have problems. I'm not going to sit here and say they're the perfect player. They're just going to come into the team and fix anything. But they're reclamation players that I feel would make more sense just because they're younger. And you need to make this timeline younger. You know, this is not like, you're not the Warriors. You're not a 2 timeline team. Like
Right.
you just need to make this like a younger team overall.
Who knows if they'll do it, man? Well, thank you for
That's the
hanging
thing.
out
Who
with us.
knows? Yeah, hopefully, everyone has a good night, and we'll see if it gets better. I think I'm glad, like the Hawks, man.
Beating the Hawks
are,
is something that pleases me.
The Hawks, like, that is too much talent to be that bad. That is too much talent.
Because Trae Young is actually the problem. There was a shot he took in the Pacers game the other night.
Oh my God, he took that 3-point from half
with
court.
The 2 guys charging him with like 8
it's
seconds
so
left on the
bad.
shot clock. I've never seen anything like that.
And then Murray. I didn't hate Murray's shot, but then the fact that it took 3 players to get a game-winning shot. Like that is bad. Like I remember like all the talk, like, oh, Trae Young, like this is a win-win. Like, how is this a win-win?
Nope.
Trade? That
talk's all gone quiet. It's lovely.
As soon as you traded Cam Reddish, like that was basically just saying that your team is bad. And the Hawks are kind of worse because they traded Kevin Huerter, and now Kevin
Huerter was like a key to what they did, and
because he's a great 3-point shooter and great movement player.
Yep.
And I think from what I heard, it was kind of just a cap situation because they're going to have to pay DeJounte.
The owner's son, who's like a 27-year-old version, like guy like us, is like running the team. Like, every now and again, I'm grateful to have the devil I know doing stuff as opposed to the devil I don't.
It's so weird because like even some of the cheap stake owners, like the Nuggets, Sam Kroenke, like generally is a very like.
No, he just doesn't care. He doesn't care
because he owns
so
3
rich.
teams. He owns 3 teams. He owns the Rams. He owns Arsenal in the Premier League, and he owns the Nuggets.
Yeah, the Nuggets are like a cute little I don't give a shit about them kind of thing.
I mean, exactly. He didn't pay Sam Ujiri, and he was just like Masai Ujiri, and he was like, "Okay, just go to Toronto." I guess.
Same with Tim Conley. Those both were money. I know that for a fact.
Tim Conley might have just made the worst trade in NBA history. I don't know. Maybe it's not so bad, but it's so puzzling. Like you have literally the best player on your team. Also, your TV rights are an absolute mess. Not that the Mavericks are here, but it's so funny to me how many. It's not like NBA owners are that different, but I always forget to mention this. One of the Dodgers co-owners and now a co-owner of Chelsea, he kind of, when he was buying Chelsea, this football club in England, he was mentioning how his goal is to have the smartest players he can, or smartest people he can running the team. So he has to do absolutely nothing. And I feel like far too many times with Mark is, I think, the prime example of this, but far too many times, like you're so egotistical and you're so like, you want to prove that for some reason, like you're rich. And so like, you need to prove that you're like, you need to validate yourself for being rich. So you try to do these things when the reality is, if you want to validate yourself, like hire people that are smarter than you and better than you and do the right thing. Like I think about, I think Toronto and Boston are like the prime examples of that. Like, maybe those owners think some of the same things as Cuban, but you never hear about those owners, undermining like Masai Ujiri or undermining the Boston like hierarchy. And I personally think unless that changes, which I don't think it ever will under this ownership, this team is kind of going to always be in the same place. And it's always going to fail upwards, right? And I guess that's okay, but it's kind of frustrating that we have to rely on that instead of, making decisions for ourselves.
Sure. Well, thank you once again for hanging out, friend.
Yeah, hopefully I didn't keep anyone too long, and hopefully everyone has a good night and gets some good rest.
All right, talk soon.
Yep.
Ooh, man. Good podcasting. Not even going to edit out my own yawn. That's how lethargic I'm feeling tonight. All right, friendos. We'll be back here on Wednesday when they play. So they play 6:30 Wednesday, 6:30 Friday, which is beautiful. Then they play an early game Sunday night, early game Tuesday. So it's after the kind of glut of Mavs games we've seen since the start of December 1st. We get a couple days off. It's going to be nice. Everybody take advantage. Watch some non-sports. Maybe, if you're a Cowboys fan and enjoy or maybe agonize over that, watch The Last of Us on HBO. That was quite the premiere. That was something. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us. I always appreciate you guys. We'll talk soon. Everyone be good.